Mm.
Well, the other big thing, and you say this as much as I do, is this business about doing something for every bit of every question. Yeah. And again, I teach more numbers ones, but it's things like, if it's in your reading time, you know what, sorry, start again. In your reading time, it's very obvious usually what the topic's on. This one's on variances, this one's on learning curves, whatever. And alright, start with the one that you're more confident with. But even if there's one that you know nothing about, with F5, with F9, there's a formula sheet. If the question was on learning curves, even if you can't remember anything, at least if you know it's learning curves, and there's a formula on the formula sheet saying learning curves, if nothing else, copy the formula.
You can put something down, can't you?
Well, you get a mark for realising it's that formula.
Yeah.
And it's very rare you can't think of one or two, you can't find one or two figures to stick in it.
And even the
and everyone's
sense.
one line. Yeah, but so many people. There was a girl last time who she said she'd failed because she couldn't remember anything about linear programming, and there was a linear programming question. So 20 marks was gone. But even if she couldn't remember anything about linear programming, she knew there was a graph involved. She could have drawn a graph.
And label the axis.
And label the axis, she'd get the mark. And, you know, it's only 1 mark, it's nothing. But it's everything if you fail on 49.
If you get,
And she failed on something like 46.
Well, 4 more efforts like that.
4 more marks, you know. Draw an axis and label it. Even make up some lines. You know what I mean? She knows you have these lines on the linear programming graph. She knew that. And define the symbols. You know, all sorts of trivial things she could have done. Each one's going to be half a mark or a mark, but doing nothing.
The tax exam, if you can't do a corporation tax question, you can still put tax at 30% or whatever the rate is that's given. Seriously, you still get your mark for it.
Oh yeah.
The
and people waste ages, whether it's tax, whether it's variances, whatever. They waste ages adding up and getting the final total.
Yeah.
And the final total's almost irrelevant.
Well, this is another thing with the consolidations, for instance, or even any accounting topic. Are there marks for being able to add up and press the right buttons on your calculator? There's a school of thought that says don't add up your balance sheet, because for one thing it won't balance, and therefore secondly you're going to worry about it and start chasing that elusive one mistake. And I personally don't agree with that. If it were me, I would add it up, because then you can quantify the error and then you can begin to look for it. If you're 15 million out, it's not going to be the cash balance, for instance.
But I'd agree and disagree. I'd agree with you, add it up. But if you're running out of time and you've not done part B or part C...
Stick to your time.
Yeah.
It's the big thing, isn't it? This time allocation and sticking to that time and attempting every question and giving it a proper attempt, making it not just a haphazard quick, I'll dash this one off and then get to some numbers. Giving it a proper attempt, dredging up some background knowledge from somewhere. Anything, any distantly related topic may possibly get you that half mark. And you say 1 more mark, it's actually half a mark, because when it gets transferred to the front sheet, the half marks get rounded. There's no space on the summary sheet for half marks. So 1 more half comment. I can imagine markers looking at scripts and saying, a marginal script, and saying, I wonder if I can find them 1 more half mark in the question. But if you've got a blank sheet, if that's your answer, there's nothing that you can score. There's nothing there for the marker. There's no opportunity for the marker to give you a score. So you have to have something down.
Yeah.
But do they listen?
And I'm only reiterating what you said. This fact that it's not the final totals they're marking. No. They're marking each line separately.
Yeah.
And again, I've got to give examples from my topics, my subjects, but at 5, there's something called relevant costing. Well, there's all sorts of different costs you've got to list. And every single question, half of them have been really easy, straight from the question, and it's a mark each. There's always been 1 or 2 which are real nasty, either because there's loads to read or it's genuinely hard. And it always comes at the beginning. So they get to the hard bit, they spend 10 minutes, still don't understand what's going on and give up. But I mean, later in the question, all these really, really easy ones, you can list them. And the fact you've got big gaps won't lose... Sorry, you don't get the marks for what's not there, but what I mean is, it's terribly easy to get the half marks. And once you've got the half marks, you've passed it.
Yeah.
And then the panic's not as bad.
F7 question
And
2.
the hard bits often aren't as hard when you're not panicking.
F7 question 2. Preparation of financial statements. Statement of financial position, statement of income. Sometimes a statement of changes in equity. But there's not 8, 9 or 10 points at the end of the trial balance. And 8, 9 or 10 therefore adjustments to make. And number 1 adjustment is always a tricky one. It's always the tangible non-current assets, and there's been a trade-in and the depreciation has not been charged and there's a disposal, and the only entry that's been made is to credit the suspense account. And it's always a tricky question, a tricky point. But point number 10 is easy. A dividend of so much was paid per share. And point number 9, taxes to be computed at such and so on. The tax provision needed is so much. And there's such easy marks, but they get stuck on point number 1 and spend an inordinate length of time doing point number 1, chasing 2 or 3 marks, whereas the tax and the dividend and the loan interest, they're such easy marks. It's a crying shame because they ruin the time allocation and they ruin the chances of getting even the basic 50% of the marks available.